Hey, all, it's David Ducker and James Duffy coming back at you. Today we're going to be talking about momentum, the unstoppable juggernaut of role-playing games. What we're talking about is how important it is to go from session to session with no interruptions, not taking a month off between sessions, and keep rolling hot with it, building that momentum up. Say, oh, I can't wait for next week. Next week's going to be the joint. Because I've been in some games where it's like, we meet once a month. And by the time the next game rolls around, I've completely forgotten what was happening. I don't even remember what my character was or what we did. So that loss of momentum for me can be crippling and devastating. Like, I've quit games. They're like, we meet once a month. And I'm like, have fun. Bye. And I just leave. Because I can't front to it. I'm a really big picture kind of guy. So, like, when I plan my campaigns out as a GM, or even as a player, I'll plan my character out. And I'll say, we're going to run for 25 sessions. And I think that's half a year. Like, that's a long time. I better make sure that, there's enough material that's all good. And when it's 25 sessions and it's once a month, I'm like, that's 2 years. It's going to take 2 years to tell the same amount of story that I could have told in half a year if we met every week instead. And then I quit. I don't have time for that. Ain't nobody got time for that. So I did want to get James, get your opinion. Because you have previously, I'm sure, been in campaigns where there were gaps between sessions, and you also have missed sessions. So even though we were gaming, you probably lost momentum in some ways. So why don't you say, does this bother you? It really bothers me. So it could just be me though. So does it bother you, or are you cool with it? Do you take notes too? So I don't take notes.
I do take notes. I actually take notes because I'm very bad at remembering characters' names.
You are.
So anytime a name is mentioned, I'll write it down. Now, that this is not an organized note-taking system, I don't read my notes. I just take notes. By writing it down, I remember it much easier because there's a physical action associated with the memory now, as opposed to just my memory, which is not, it's not an A++ memory or anything. Yeah, I had a campaign, and we met every 3 weeks, which was a very approximate time that we would meet, because there'd be times when we'd have scheduling issues and not everybody could make it, and then it's 6 weeks between the session. You mentioned that it's hard to remember what happens. That's like absolutely true. When you don't play for like a month and a bit, you lose so much context for what is actually going on. If there isn't some sort of a sophisticated recap on what your character motive is, you don't actually know anymore. You don't know if you're hot or you're cold. You don't know if you're angry, if you're sad. There's just so much missing from the emotional engine that drives most players.
Yeah.
And there's such a huge break within that immersion when you do schedule it far apart. Now, I wouldn't say if you game once a month that you're like some sort of a troll or something like that. Like, a lot of people have varying schedules. A lot of people can only game once a month. They don't have room in their schedule to do it.
And a lot of people are power gamers, and they suck anyway.
Yeah. And for those people, it's absolutely fine to game when you can, if that is once a month. But if you can game more frequently, I would definitely recommend it. The main reasons for that is you probably have the time. It's a great hobby. Role-playing is a pretty good hobby.
It's a great hobby.
So if you're not doing anything else with that time, and you have enough dedicated players who actually want to meet and have this experience together, meet more often. You'll have more fun. You'll develop more interesting games. You'll develop more of a social dynamic between you and your friends. There's tons of benefit to take away from getting together often.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and James just mentioned that he has a note-taking system. For myself, the system I use as a player, of course, as a GM, I have much different, although equally unsophisticated system. But as a player, I make my character sheet, and I talked already about my universal character sheet. I use the same sheet for every campaign, and I update it fairly often, and then print it back out, send it back to the GM. So if for example I get a scar, I'll update the appearance section. If I lose my boots in a gambling game, I'll update the appearance section. If my character's personality changes, I'll update the personality section. And I can constantly be upgrading the backstory section because everything that wasn't today is backstory. If I learn new moves in fencing, I'll upgrade the fighting style section. So I update my character sheet often, and I send the updates to the GM as well. So he has updated not only on the rules, but he has all the story updated from my perspective. So that's one tool I use. Other thing I wanted to mention is, hearing you talk about it, she made me think, when I record the Return of the Runefangs videos, I try so hard to record them like the next day, or like that right after session, so it's so fresh in my mind. But sometimes it doesn't happen, and I'll be like 2 months between when we have the game and when I do a recap of that session. And I'm just struggling in my memory to figure out what happened. And I'm sure you can watch some of those videos and you can see it, and I'm just like, oh, then the players... And then Josh is dead. And I just can't remember what went on. So it definitely is, you're right, even the memory. But my main thing was just the excitement factor. Because, I'll get players, text message me, email me, call me on the telephone, say, what if we did this next session? What if my character did that? Or tell me more about these NPCs or this noble house? Or, is that guy's daughter single? Or, if they're marrying into the noble houses. I don't mean like somebody's trying to get in on like Kevin's little daughters or anything. But their excitement really bleeds through to the game, and it's a higher energy game. Because we all know we only have like 4 or 6 hours at the table. So when you have all these plans you want to get done in 4 hours, and there's 6 of you, all with all these plans, and it all got to be squeezed into 4 hours. Man, it's like boom, 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 boom. It's popping so hard. And then before you know it, we can only game for 4 hours. I gotta work tomorrow. And the next thing you know, it's like 6 hours later, and you're like, oh man, I gotta finish the scene. Like, I might get fired, but I gotta finish the scene. So the momentum, I can see the difference in my players just as much as I feel the difference as a player. So, is there anything else you wanted to add about momentum, or if you've seen like gross errors because like the GM couldn't remember what happened last time? I end up correcting GMs all the time actually, because I do keep those notes, and sometimes the GMs don't, and I'll correct them like, that's not what his name is, that's not how you pronounced it, that's not where this city is, and I'm a terrible player. If you're not a really good GM, like I'm nitpicking motherfucker. And James has probably seen this.
I had a bad experience once.
With me?
No. This was with my group when I was younger.
Okay.
We effectively teleported like 800 miles or something, and the reason for that was the DM forgot which city was behind us. So we're on a road, and city A is behind us. A month goes by. We're back. We're on that same-ish road. And city C is behind us. Yeah. And we went to the city, and we all knew what the city was. And we're wandering around through the city, and we're trying to complete our character goals at that moment. And we're making decisions based on the location that we think we're in. And the DM, despite naming the city incorrectly and describing a few things horribly wrong, was still under the impression that it was a city that he should have been correctly describing, but wasn't.
Yeah.
So we're trying to like go to the tavern and talk to these people that we know, and like they don't exist anymore. And suddenly we're like questioning the DM, like, where are these people? We got to find them. And he's like, what do you mean we got to find them? That doesn't make any sense. But like he did, like it's all like kept under wraps, and then none of this is being mentioned in a way that is explicitly pointing to the errors that have been being made. And it just developed probably for another half hour. And someone slammed the table and stood up and was like, did you think this was blank? And it's like,
I did think this was blank.
oh, like we all collectively moaned, right? Like the middle staff.
He slammed it through the table.
And like no one cared anymore. So you guys want to like play Xbox?
Yeah.
And so we stopped and we just.
You guys want to like burn our players' handbook?
Sort of like that's our get together once every 3 weeks instead of doing it's an opportunity to play because we don't get to do it all the time once every 3 weeks, and that opportunity was ruined. Kind of because of our scheduling, also because of like sort of a passive ignorance.
Poor planning.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I think you asked.
I blame people for things all the time. Like you might be like, well, that's very harsh, Dave. And I'll be like, that is very true, though. He fucking didn't plan very well. Otherwise, it wouldn't have happened.
Yeah, I agree with you.
And I mean, I'm just being honest. It's not like I'm going to punish the guy for planning poorly. It's just the fact of the matter is he planned poorly. I'm not mad at him. I'm not going to yell at him or punish him, but that's the truth. I speak the truth.
You asked if I had any other points about momentum.
Yeah.
I have one more point, and it's not really about momentum, but it does tie in, and that's DM burnout, which is something you've probably talked about before.
No, I haven't.
Okay.
Never done it. We could do the video next. You want to do a separate video? DM burnout?
Yeah.
Excellent. Tune in for that video next.
Sit tight, YouTube.